Hello, everyone. All right. Welcome. Welcome to the webinar. And we're going to talk about how to manage your feelings. You guys excited? I am going to check in to make sure everybody is able to join. If you are here, say hello. Say hello in the Q&A box. Oh, yay. People are now joining. I know with technology now, everybody's using it. So I've been on webinars myself earlier today where they just crash and burn. Guest system overload. All right. Make sure you find the Q&A box. I think for me, it's at the bottom of my screen. It might be for you at the top, and just make sure you can type in there. I am going to be asking some questions, and I don't have a chat box in this webinar on purpose, so it's more of a Q&A box. So just locate that Q&A box as I see you guys joining. Hello, ladies. Hello, hello. We have some people that I know on the call, and then some people I don't know. How exciting. So I'm just going to give the system just a couple of more seconds because I know Zoom is overloaded and overwhelmed with the number of online courses and curriculums and people just taking to Zoom. Such a great product. I love it. I absolutely love it. And just want to make sure everybody is with us from the get-go. So sometimes when I move back a little bit, Zoom will zoom out. How funny is that to use that word twice? I just want to make sure that you can see my screen. And as more of you are joining, please go to the Q&A box. I want to make sure that I hear you and that I'm going to be asking some questions as we go through, and I'm going to get some participation. So make sure you can locate the question and answer box. And I really want to give you some tools where we can manage our feelings. And I don't know how you feel about the word manage, but when I think of a manager or managing, right, it's being actively involved and having control over part of the process, right? So managing a project, managing your household, right? So you are the leader. You're showing up as the one in charge. And I want to give you some authority where you can feel you can manage your feelings and your emotions. So that's where I actually want to begin, is when we talk about, hey, Chris, good. I see your comment. Thank you for letting me know. And I will tell you most of the stuff will be in the first half hour. So glad you're joining. All right, some more people are joining. So I'm just saying to the newbies that are joining with us, make sure you find that Q&A box because I'll be asking some questions in there. So I would much love it if this was interactive and to get your thoughts around some things. So I'm going to be talking about the emotions, and I also use the term feelings. So I use them interchangeably. Sometimes I don't, but in this context, I will be using feelings and emotions interchangeably. So we want to be able to manage our feelings, right? We want to not just be at the effect of what's happening out there in the world. We don't want to just think that we don't have any control over our feelings, because honestly, we do. And if you are not taking advantage of this, in my mind, it's a missed opportunity, right? So I want to really talk deep about how we're going to be managing feelings. And if you have a pen and paper, I'm going to be giving you some great tips, strategies that you can write down. So grab your pen and paper because they're going to start right out of the gate. All right. So one of the first things I want to start with is your mind, your brain, your mind is by far your greatest asset. It's not your health, because your brain is tied to your health, right? If you are not keeping a healthy mind, it can lead to disease, right? And so we know that there's a strong mind-body connection, which for a large part of, Western medicine, we've been kind of missing that, right? So now we've known that a large part of how we function is the mind-body connection. So I really do believe the mind is your greatest asset. And if you can work with your mind, you can up level or get better results in your life, hands down, right? Anybody that can manage their mind, that can be anything from being more persistent, taking more chances, not giving up, right? Whatever it is we want to accomplish or achieve or get or be or become, like all of that falls into that category. So I firmly believe your mind is your greatest asset. So that's why I want to talk through these tools, because your mind actually has two parts that rule it, right? We have the executive functioning part, which we will call that our rational mind, right? We know how we should eat. We know we should get movement every day. Like we know the facts that we should execute. And so if we just had that logical mind, right, we wouldn't have to deal with, well, I don't feel like doing it, but I'm not motivated, right? And that's because we have another part of our brain, the emotional part of our brain. So I'll keep it really simple. I'm not going to go into the scientific terms on here. I'm just going to keep it really basic. So we have the logical brain and we have the emotional brain. So we can talk a lot about the logical brain, like, why aren't I exercising? Why am I drinking more than I want? Why am I eating more than I want? It's because the emotional brain, right, will say, well, that will feel better. Or just let's hit the snooze button and stay in bed. Or we can start tomorrow, right? Because our feelings might take over. Now, the inputs we're getting from society now, right? We're in a time where there's a lot of change. We know that the coronavirus is here, and it's here to stay for some amount of time that we really don't know. And we know that we're taking precautions, right? We are trying to flatten the curve, all that stuff. But to the brain, this is change. And even in times of good change or bad, or change of bad, or times of change that we perceive as bad, right? The brain is going to be like, whoa, what's going on here? This is not my norm. And so if you're feeling fear, anxiety, dread, whatever the feelings, panic, I just want you to know that that is normal. That is absolutely normal in times of change, right? So we have to make space for that. We can't say, I just want to rush past that feeling because it doesn't feel good. And because I will tell you, when you do that, you don't get out of it fast. You may think you're doing good, but you wind up doing self-sabotaging behaviors when you don't allow for that space. So I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but I just want to talk about, that's one of the tactics we'll be talking about, is allowing the emotion to be there. It's okay. So to start, I'm going to start off with some more things that I consider absolute facts, right? So your mind being your greatest asset, hands down, absolutely, right? When you don't have your mind, just think about Alzheimer's patients or patients that are demented, right? Like that just looks like a different quality of life altogether. Another thing I'm going to share, and if you have worked or seen my work before, you're like, yeah, I already know that. But maybe you're new to me. Some of you I don't recognize from your names that are here. I want you to know that the things out in the world do not directly cause your emotions. So the coronavirus is not causing you to feel a certain way. Circumstances are just things outside of us that are neutral. They are neutral until our mind hears it and has a thought about it. So if you didn't understand language, right? If you didn't know what coronavirus is, you were ignorant, and somebody walked up to you and spoke gibberish. Like, what if somebody told you in Greek and you don't speak and understand Greek? We have to stay inside because of the coronavirus, right? You just be like, huh, it's interesting. I don't know what they said. Right? But now if you understand it, your mind is now going to associate meaning to it, that is the process of thought, right? I think it, therefore I am, right? So the thought is what causes our emotions. So that's where I want to start off today. So how to manage your feelings. And I hope you can see this. And if you can't, you have the Q&A box to let me know, and I'll be peeking at that Q&A box quite a bit. So you will see feelings come from your thoughts. They do not come from the coronavirus. They do not come from what your governor, senator, or president said. They come from your thoughts about those circumstances. So knowing that, that's great news, because we can't control what comes out of the president's mouth, and we can't control individually. Collectively, yes, we can control the coronavirus, but individually, we can't control it. We could do our part to be a part of the solution and do it collectively. So it's not actually those events causing you to feel a certain way, it's your thoughts about them. And that gives us such good news, because now we have agency over our own mind. We have authority over what we can think about. And so that also means we have authority to change our feelings should we want to. And I think this is awesome, because instead of our feelings owning us, we can begin to manage and own our feelings. So let's dive into some of that. So it's not the circumstance. It's never the outside things causing your feelings. So I say it's the circumstance that causes thoughts to be had about it, right? So the coronavirus, and now we have lots of thoughts about it. Those thoughts create feelings, and those feelings create what we do or what we don't do. So the action we take or the actions we don't take, right? So that's the way it works in our mind. So we don't have control over the C. We do have control over the rest of the process. And that's wonderful news. Okay, so here's where, if you haven't started taking notes yet, I absolutely recommend you start taking notes. So when I work with my clients, we work in all different ways depending on how they present with what is bothering them or what results they want to get in their life, right? So since I specialize in weight loss as well as breaking the habit of over drinking, we generally talk in those two areas. But all sorts of things come up, right? Because we might be drinking because of a divorce, or we might be drinking because our kids are driving us insane, right? So all kinds of things come up. But the same tenets apply. So these are some of the foundational tenets that we talk about. So let's just start off with the feeling. What are you guys feeling? Anybody want to write in the chat? What is the main feeling you have today or in the last week? What are you feeling most? I want to hear your feelings. What emotion is coming up for you? I'll give you a minute to respond. Okay, I see anxiety. What else? Anything else coming up? And don't worry about typing in. I won't call on you if you don't want to get called on. I just want to see what you're feeling out there. Some people just say calm. Yeah, I'm okay. I don't feel in direct danger. And I do feel some people that I've been coaching with recently, they actually feel guilty for being calm. They feel guilty for feeling calm. And that's interesting too, right? Like, this is not affecting me. I'm not terribly bothered by staying at home. I'm still able to work. My job's not in jeopardy. Yeah, things are managed a little bit differently, like how I procure my groceries and who's teaching my children, but I'm okay, right? So that's great news too, right? So therefore, that's evidence that it's not the virus causing the panic. It's the thoughts about the virus causing the panic, right? And maybe it's not directly the virus. Maybe you are feeling anxious because you're worried about your job. Maybe you're feeling anxious because you're an extrovert and you just like being with people. So this is a hard time for you, right? So I just want to know what you're feeling. And I love to just know so I can use that as my example going forward. So since I really see calmness, which is good, and I don't think you want to be not calm, so I'm not going to touch that one. I'm going to say that's a feeling we probably want to feel, right? Now, if it's anxiety, a lot of us don't want to feel anxiety. And so I will talk about steps to manage that and change that. Okay, so first, always you want to get in touch with how you're feeling, right? So they say a lot of times in acceptance and commitment therapy, I think that's what it's called, and cognitive behavioral therapy, right? All of the ways to treat people is you first have to know where they're at. So where are you starting? That's what I wanted to know about you today. I wanted you to feel known, seen, heard. Individuals have that need to feel known, seen, and heard. That's why we love to hang out with each other. That's like we love to belong to things. That's why we identify with certain labels, right? Because we like that I'm connected feeling. We want to be part of the herd. We want to be part of the tribe. We want to know we matter. And you absolutely do matter. So you want to get in touch with what exactly are you feeling and name it. Now, I have a list of different feelings I've posted to my private Facebook page, because a lot of us maybe we practice feeling one way all the time, so our vocabulary of how we feel is limited. So if we say busy, oh, I'm so stressed, I'm so busy, oh, I got anxiety, right? Those become like the same 3 to 5 words we keep using over and over. But do you know, if you say you're stressed, that allows us to go nowhere, because it's not the stress, it's something underneath it, right? What is causing the stress? What's the other feeling? It's like saying, overwhelmed. So it might not be stress, but it might be, well, I just feel overwhelmed. There's so much to do. Well, now we can move forward with that, right? So stress is kind of nebulous, whereas some of the other feelings that we have are a little bit more descriptive that we can now start to break down. So you can't go forward if you don't know what you're feeling. So name it. All right. So let's just say anxiety. Feel it and acknowledge it. So it's not like I have anxiety and I don't want it. It's like this ball you catch and then you want to just throw it away, right? Oh, I don't want to think about my anxiety, and that's why I can't name it, because I don't know what it is and I just don't want to feel it. No, you want to do the complete opposite. You want to say, this is feeling like anxiety. Wow. Okay. My heart is racing. What else am I feeling? My heartbeat, my pulse, my blood pressure. I'm feeling like I can't sit still. I'm feeling like I can't focus, right? Do you see how I'm actually feeling it and describing it? And it's really important, because when you talk about it, when you journal about it, when you actually say the words out loud, I don't just recommend thinking about it, because your brain will then think about where to buy toilet paper or something else, right? So our brains get so easily distracted. So come back to saying, okay, it's anxiety, and this is what I'm experiencing, blah, 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 all the symptoms, all the things, right? So really feel into it. This process will then communicate back up to your brain to say, oh, this is anxiety. And when your body communicates back up to your brain, rather than you trying to throw the ball away, you're telling your brain, I can handle this. When you feel the anxiety coming and you just try pushing it away, maybe you try to eat it away, maybe you try to drink it away, maybe you try to Netflix it away, your brain is not comfortable then with those feelings. So then you don't train your brain to say, I can handle this. Your brain learns it can't, so I need to exit. I need to have a strategy. I need to take an action that's going to make me feel better, because I'm so not comfortable with this. So sit with it. So you're not saying you're going to like it, but all you're doing is signaling back to your brain that you can handle it. And that's what the brain really wants to know, right? We are flight or fight scared creatures, right? That's our primal response when things change. And so this is a huge change for our society and the way we operate. You've got to let your brain know, we've got this, even when it's uncomfortable, even when I have a fast heart rate, even when I feel my blood pressure is up. Okay, so now let's move on. Find the thoughts causing it. All right, so we've named it, we felt it, we were sitting with it, whether that's a minute to get all the words out and all the feelings out, whether that was 5 minutes. There's just no perfect timing, right? You just want to be with it, where you're no longer teaching your brain to run away from it and to get rid of it. So then find the thoughts causing it, right? So then you want to say, why am I anxious? If you just say, because it's the coronavirus, well, why? I don't have it. I'm sitting at home perfectly healthy. What is causing the thought? Because the thoughts cause our feelings. Is it, I'm anxious because I don't know about tomorrow. I don't know about my job. I don't know how I'm going to get through teaching my kids and having all this homeschooling. Is it, I don't know when life will resort back to normal, right? What is the thought? And maybe you have more than one. Most of us do. Most of our brains are just rapid fire. Oh no, got another thought, right? What's the average thoughts per day? 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day that our brain comes up with. And guess what? They say over 90% of those are recycled or repeated. So you actually train your brain how to think, and it just repeats the process. So our thoughts become habits. So you can literally habituate being an anxious person. You can habituate being a fearful person. You can habituate, meaning put into habit, a joyful person, a peaceful person. These can be learned behaviors. So it's not like you come out of the womb, oh, I'm a glass is half empty person, or you come out of the womb, I'm a glass is half full person. That may be the case, but then you can nurture to become different. You can be nurtured and train yourself from an introvert to an extrovert. There are plenty of studies out there that says all of this is changeable. And we just learned about this in the past couple of decades. So super exciting. All right, so what am I thinking that is causing me to feel this way? Why do I feel anxious? What am I fearing? What am I nervous about? And write all the thoughts down. So when I do this, and I don't just preach this, ladies, I actually do this for me, right? I feel I'm a person that has baseline chronic anxiety. I don't say that anymore because I don't want that label. I'm changing that label. But in the meantime, I do this process for me and it really begins to change my feelings. So it's not just something I got out of a book. Now, this is how I've learned to conquer drinking, conquer overeating, conquer all the things that I didn't want to be doing in my life, that didn't make me feel like the woman I wanted to be. So I write down all my thoughts on a piece of paper, write them all down. And then you go, why do I feel this way? So write down all the thoughts, right? That's step 4. Okay, so then we're going to get into the next step. So everybody have this because I'm going to turn the page. And I'm not seeing that anybody's chatting in the chat box, so I will take that as a yes. So this is all the feelings work. So we could put a capital F at the top of this page. This is everything we're diving into our feelings. We are not running away from our feelings. We are not numbing our feelings. We are not saying, I'm unwilling to feel this. Do you notice none of those steps are here? Because then the brain will learn we have to run away constantly. We have to numb constantly. I am not okay and I am not safe. So I have to do these other things. So this is the way we train our brain with our body. It has to be, it's a communication that just doesn't go from the brain to the body. There's a pathway that goes from the body back up to the brain. And that's where a lot of us are lacking right now, right? Because we have so many modalities we can turn to. We can turn to Cheez-Its. We can turn to cookies. We can turn to Instacart and they can deliver all kinds of things, right? So we live in that commoditized society where everything's so available. I mean, there's no sense of food scarcity. We have vending machines. We have delivery services, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Postmates, Instacart, Vons, Ralph's. The list doesn't end. So therefore, there's always a way to tap out of our feelings, and we don't want to do that. So this is the feelings work. So that's part of the process. And I notice when I start doing the feelings work before I get to the complete process, I already start to change how I feel. Does it mean my anxiety is gone? No. Does it mean it's lessened? Most of the time, yes. Does it work all the time? No, nothing's 100%, right? Nothing is 100% guaranteed. That you're going to wake up tomorrow is not 100% guaranteed, right? But if it works most of the time, why wouldn't you not do this? Especially if it translates to a happier, fuller, not just happiness. We're not here to be happy all the time, right? I don't want to be happy that people have the coronavirus. That's not it. No, this is just to manage myself. So I'm actually doing the things that promote health and longevity because that's important to me. All right. So moving on, we have next, instead of focusing on the feelings, we get really in touch with our feelings, because then we go up one level and we say, okay, we found all the thoughts creating those feelings. Now let's work on the thoughts, because now we can get some progress. Now, there are other ways we can work with feelings to get them to reside, and I'm not going to go into all the different modalities like EFT therapy, the tapping therapy, right? That's approach that we can just tap more into the feelings, tap them away kind of deal. I'm not going to go into some of those other additional modalities we have here. What I'm going to take you in is to what I specialize in is really thought work, because cognitive therapy helps so many conditions, so many feeling conditions, so many emotional conditions, right? It's something I'm teaching my daughter, right? It's just something I felt has really had a profound difference in my life. I teach my clients this work, and they find that it's had a profound effect once they do this work in their life. All right, so under the thoughts, now here's not, you do this first, you do this second. Notice they're not numbered. These are lettered, because you don't have to do them in sequence. You can try A, see if A works. A doesn't work, let's try B, right? So we're going to talk about, once you've done the 1 through 4 and you now collected all the thoughts, what can we do with those thoughts? All right, so we have our thoughts. So what's causing me anxiety? I don't know when life will return back to normal. Let's say that's a thought. I don't know about the security of my job. Maybe I'm anxious because now I have to homeschool my child, and that just causes me anxiety, and I don't want to do it. And we get frustrated, and not only anxiety, but there's anger and all these other emotions, right? Because it's rare that we just have one emotion going on. Well, first, A, you can do is follow the thought to the worst case scenario. A lot of us don't want to do this. It doesn't feel good. We say it out loud with our mouth, like, what if I lose my job, right? Okay, and we stop there. But then really think, if you lost your job, is that the worst case scenario? Well, no, I can live off of our savings. Okay, what happens when that is drained out? Do you see where I'm going? Like, you want to keep going to the worst case scenario. Well, is that the worst case scenario? What's wrong with using up all your savings? For a lot of people, they don't have savings, right? So, and they're living quite happily, some people, right, without savings. They've been doing it for many years. Maybe they're not living happily now, but it didn't bother them then, right? So it's not the savings. What is it? Oh, it's because now maybe I'll have to sell my extra car or a car. Maybe I'll have to downsize my house. Maybe we can't take nice vacations anymore. Maybe we will have to adjust our quality of life, right? So whatever it is, just keep going. What is the worst case scenario if you have to sell your house? That you live in an apartment? And do you see what I'm doing? Like, we're going there because the brain doesn't want to. So rather just live in the experience of what if, and fear. But let me ask you, how many of you would be happy in an apartment? Or if you're in an apartment, in doubling up with somebody, getting roommates to make ends meet? Would you be okay? How many of you would feel like you'd be okay if you lived in an apartment? Your family's all alive. You just now live in an apartment, or you live downsized, whatever that means to you. You get roommates. We may not like it. And when I allow my brain to go there from my house to an apartment or whatever, but I still have the people I love in my life, I don't think that's the worst case scenario. So then I go again. You know what the worst case scenario for me is? Losing the people I love. So then my brain starts to see that that's not really accurate. That worst case scenario where I'm fearing that I'm not going to be happy, or that I'm not going to be able to survive and make it, is actually wrong. We have thoughts all the time. If you're on this call, you probably have thoughts all the time that aren't accurate. They're a lie. It's just fear, right? You may not love it, but you know what your brain does when you have to downsize? It gets used to that. It gets used to that new environment. You know what the brain's going to do in a week or two? It's going to get used to it. Yeah, we'll have cabin fever. But it'll be like, oh, now this is the way we do business. Will we like it? No, but we will survive and we won't fear, right? Because we will be like, yeah, we've done that. It's like send your kid off to college, right? Are they guaranteed that they're going to walk the stage and cross the stage and get their diploma? No, they have fear. They have fear they're going to fail, right? But for some of us, right, that doesn't happen. And when they do fail, are their lives ruined for good? No, they just find another avenue to get back up, keep going. All right, so I love going to the worst case scenario because before I learned about this work and before I started to doing it for myself, I didn't realize how much of my fear was non-factual based. So just seeing where the errors in my thinking was really enlightening, right? All right, is it possible you could be wrong, right? That kind of ties into A. But sometimes you can just go right to B and just question that thought. Is it possible I'm wrong? So I love this example. It's kind of a silly example, but you'll see. So last week I used choice B. We went to drum lessons for my daughter who's 9, and they said we're now going to be not doing drum lessons in person anymore. We're going to be doing them online through Zoom. And then they started walking me through how to use Zoom. I'm like, I know how to use Zoom. I do it for work. And while she was doing her drum lesson, I'm sitting there, and I'm just sitting, and my brain is like, great, another thing that we can't do. Like it's having a temper tantrum. Great, another thing we can't do. How do you learn drums over a computer? Not possible, right? So my brain is like instantly resisting change because that's what our brains do. Like, I don't like this. This is not going to work. I'm canceling our lessons. There's no way this is going to work. So I'm like, okay, Sherry, which of your works that you've done, we really need to not sit and spin in this because it's not helping. Because I could feel I was starting to sweat. I could feel my heart rate going. I'm like, okay, why am I doing this to myself? Let's calm down your cortisol level, your adrenals. And I said, okay, what if I was wrong about this? What if I was wrong that she can't learn to play drums over the computer? And then I sat there for a minute. I'm like, nah, she can't learn over. You have to hear it. It has to be face to face. Like it's just different. How's she gonna notice when he's moving his sticks and what drum he's on? And I'm like, Sherry, you have no idea. You've never played drums. You've never even given it a shot for drum lessons over the computer. What if this actually could be better? And when my brain served me up that thought, I was like, holy cow, that could be totally true. Drum lessons over the computer might actually be better for my daughter. I have no idea. We've never tried it. But my brain instantly went to, it won't work. It's too different. It's new, right? And I just love to say, maybe I'm wrong about that, right? My church is now giving its services online. And I'm like, I miss the people and I miss the connection. But you know what? A lot of the connection is in our mind. So now I just attend my service online, right? And yeah, it's all okay. I could be wrong about all of it. So I just being willing to be wrong with the thought I'm having. Because if I'm really causing myself some angst over it, I want to try to release it if I could. All right, next, C, separate the facts from the drama or the story. I like the word drama. Some people like the word story. So when you're thinking about all of the thoughts that you have and you're writing them all down, maybe you have 10 of them. I'm usually around 8 to 10 thoughts that's causing this one emotion. I'll look at those thoughts and I'll say, which one of these are truly facts? So drum lessons won't work over the computer. Is that a fact? Nope. That was totally my story. That was totally my drama. It wasn't a fact because you know what? I've never tried it. I have no idea. And I imagine there are places in the world, maybe even our country, that people do online lessons and it works nice. It works just fine, right? So that wasn't a fact. So then I have to look at another thought, right? Like, so you just keep going through your thoughts and you're like, is this one a fact? Is this one a fact? If I lose my job, will I really be worse off? Maybe short term, but maybe long term, it could be one of the most beautiful times for myself and my family. I don't know. Maybe I learned to get scrappy. Maybe I learn a new resource or a new tool, or maybe I develop a passion that has been kind of dormant for a while. Maybe I just love spending time with the people that I love, and we'll look back on these times and we'll cherish them in a certain way, right? So maybe this is not all bad. All right, so separate facts from drama. So, right, lost job. If that is a fact, that's a fact. I lost my job. But what are the thoughts that you have about it that are creating more drama, creating more story, and creating more angst for you, creating more feelings of that you really don't want? And then D, be willing to find other thoughts that are true, right? Okay. Other thoughts, right? So somebody could say, I lost my job, but I didn't really like it to begin with. And so maybe this is a blessing in disguise, and I just don't know how the story is going to end. Maybe God has a different plan for me going forward, and he just executed it now, right? It could be all kinds of thoughts. And I'm not just saying spin it to be positive. No, spin it so you actually believe it, right? So what is a thought you could believe? Maybe the thought is, these are going to be hard times, but I'm okay and I could get through it. Does that necessarily feel good? No, right? Nobody wants hard times. The brain wants ease, always. If it's easy, the brain wants that route. If we've got 3 different options and we want the easy route, right? We were going to take the option that's the easiest. Absolutely. But we grow the most in hard times. We grow the most when we have to utilize our brain in a different way, when we develop new capabilities, when we develop new ways of doing things, whether that's connecting, learning, contributing, right? So be open to find other thoughts that are true. Now, maybe you don't want to. So maybe none of these strategies, maybe you're so tied to that thought. These are the worst of times. I'm not going to get through this, whatever. If you hang on to that thought, then I just challenge you to be okay with the way it makes you feel. So if you don't like feeling anxious, but you don't want to give up the thought that's causing you the anxiety, you're creating anxiety, and then you're creating suffering on top of that. Because there's a part of your brain saying, I don't want to be anxious, but I'm not willing to give up my thought and my story. So therefore, I'm going to be suffering. And that usually causes suffering or depression, or now we start to get into other layers where we have to start now peeling that all back if we want healing. So if we don't clear up something in childhood, if we don't clear up past traumas, if we don't make peace with them, whether it's forgiveness, whether it's finding compassion for who you were in the situation, if you were the one doing the wrong, right? If we don't forgive ourselves, forgive others, find compassion, then we actually stay with that emotion, and then it compounds over time. Now, maybe we don't want to escape certain emotions in a certain period of time, but eventually we will move on. And I bring this in to just highlight it is completely normal to be sad and grieve when we lose somebody. You probably don't want to be happy if you lose somebody that's important to you. So staying there is a good thing because that requires you to feel it all the way through. So you do release these emotions eventually over time. But when there are feelings of worry, feelings of anxiety and panic, when technically your physical body is not in any harm, it's just like produced by mass media or whatever, I don't find that kind of sitting in the worry or the panic useful to you in any way, because it's all mental drama. It's actually not about a lost loved one. It's not about something that directly impacted us because we knew the person directly. So I hope that makes sense. Sometimes it is important to stay in that emotion, right? Grief is a big one. But a lot of times these feelings are unnecessary. I will tell you, I work with women anxiety a lot. And just by peeling those layers back, you can start to lessen your anxiety. Another common feeling women feel all the time, and I get it, sometimes I do too, that's why I do this work, is overwhelm. That's another useless feeling. And actually, it's a lie. I will tell you, when we peel back the layers, for every single person I've ever worked on, including myself, it's always a lie. Overwhelm is just the story we created in our mind. It is not actually based in fact. And we can peel it all back, and I can just show it to you plain as day in the facts. And you'd be like, wow, I didn't realize how I was creating all that drama just with my thoughts, because it's not fact-based. Yeah, especially today's society, right? All right, so I want to open this up. If you've got any comments, start posting them now. But I just have a few closing comments before I hop over to the Q&A box. If you're got questions, comments, how this can relate to you. Maybe you're not seeing how these steps are going to work in this certain situation. I would love to walk that through with you. I would love to help you because I firmly believe a lot of this helps in most situations. But you get to think anything you want, which is kind of a lot of responsibility, right? You get to manage your thoughts all the time. You get to clean up your thoughts. You get to change them anytime you want. And a lot of times we stay married to those thoughts because they're comfortable. When in all actuality, staying married to those thoughts causes more harm, more pain, more suffering. And I do say harm because if our mind is not kept clean, right, and we're not in charge and watching our thoughts do lead to physiological changes in our heart rate, in the way we metabolize food, in our digestion, in our sleep, right? If you have stress all the time, how's your sleep? So let's really clean up your mind. And then women experience greater, deeper sleep, more restful sleep, more restorative sleep, right? You're able to disconnect from these feelings which you feel you can't control. But that's just a lie, because if you feel you can't control them, you're just giving away your authority. You're just like, no, I'm not willing to do it. Too hard. I'm not doing those steps. Too hard. So then you live with constant anxiety, and that causes heart disease, overweight, diabetes, all these things can just be created with just the mind. Because then the mind will then tell us how we feel, and then we'll take actions, right? Our thoughts create our feelings, which create our actions. So if we're constantly overeating, right, that can, and eating processed foods or sugar foods, because those are the ones that are the tastiest, right? That'll lead to diabetes, heart disease, and so forth. So we got to start with the mind. I think the mind is so powerful. And you get to choose the way you think. You just have to tune in, and you have to be willing to listen, and you have to be willing to hear all the ugliness, because some of us have a lot of ugliness going on up there. We need to clean that up, and you can. It's called neuroplasticity. It's called rewiring your brain. There's so much out there about the thoughts that we have turn into our subconscious way of just operating. It just feels like we're operating this way on autopilot, but we get to take agency over that. And a lot of times this work will take some time, but it's not going to take years for a lot of us, depending on the hurt, depending on the trauma, depending on what we're dealing with. But a lot of it can be cleaned up pretty quickly. All right, so let me stop there. Let me tell you that I love you. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to connect with you this way. I hope this information was helpful for you. And then I do have a couple of questions that I'd like you to jot down that I think would very much start changing the way you feel. And so I'm going to read those to you. So when you're doing this work on your own, there's just a few questions I like to ask myself. And so this is what the process I do with myself a lot. And I'm also keeping an eye on the Q&A box. Nobody has written in yet. So if you do, I'm keeping my eye out, and I will be sure to answer that before we end. What am I currently feeling? Okay, that was kind of going back to naming it. How does it feel in my body? What do I notice physically, physiologically? What are the sensations I feel in my body? If I'm embarrassed, maybe my cheeks flare red. Maybe I want to hang my head low. Maybe if I'm feeling panic, there's like a knot in my stomach, right? So you really want to describe, what are the sensations in your body? What are the thoughts that I'm having that are causing this feeling? Write them all. Don't be afraid, right? A lot of times when we write it down on paper, we're like, gosh, why am I so mean to myself? Why am I so harsh? Because maybe sometimes it's about us. Like, we don't feel equipped to be the homeschooler, right? I'm like now asking myself, really? I wasn't planning on becoming a fourth grade teacher, but here I am. I know I can rise to the challenge. By me telling myself I can't, right? That's just further, causing me not to show up as a best parent I can, as the best teacher I can. Next question. What am I doing because I feel this way? Like, maybe you're avoiding something. Maybe you're just binging on something. Maybe you're just scrolling on something, right? What am I doing because I feel this way? And what do I rather be doing? What do I rather be doing? How about, what do I rather be feeling? And if you know what you rather be doing or what you rather be feeling, what does that require me to think? Yeah. So now you've taken this work full cycle. You've taken it from your emotional brain. And what do? Take it full cycle to your rational brain. And that is beautiful, right? Because then you get that transformation. And then what you start doing is completely different than what you were doing. Right? That's where I want to end, my friends. I don't see any comments, but I hope you found this helpful. Love to hear your feedback on any of my Facebook pages. I have a private community too, because I know people, when they struggle with over drinking, they don't want other people to know. There's such stigma, there's such shame, and don't stay there, friends. Don't stay there. You don't get cured. You don't get helped when you stay. These feelings, we got to work through the feelings to come out the other side together, whole, not feeling broken, right? So if you want that, please join my private Facebook page. You can email me at sherry@sherryprice.com. You can search for my private Facebook page called Stop the Overdrinking Habit and join us. We have great conversations in there a lot, specifically towards drinking. Or you can visit my my website too to learn more about me and my work. That's at sherryprice.com. I'd love to help you in any way I can, especially during these times. We don't have to turn and numb out and buffer out our feelings. We can just feel them and strategize and come back to being how we want to show up in this world, how we want to contribute, and how we want to love on others. Especially, we have to love on ourselves first. All right, great to see you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.